yesterday, earlier this week, they cut off the Bucks County voting, and then a judge said, yep, you can do 3 more days of it. And last night, the cutoff was at 5 p.m., and people were in line until after 8.
Yeah,
they waited in line
like 6 hours. Like 6
4
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was a video. There was a video on. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but there was a video on X, and it was a guy. He was voting. He was taking a picture, video on himself, and he was hitting Trump, and it wasn't doing nothing. And then all of a sudden, Kamala Harris's, hers lit up like he voted for her. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I have seen some of these videos, and what we're telling people is you still got to show up and vote. And if you have something like that happen, don't press vote. Get an election official, get them over there, show them what's going on. I know that in 2020 and 22, there were issues that people brought to the attention of the election officials, and basically they were told, oh, don't worry about it, it'll be fine, and they went ahead and pushed vote. Yeah, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
We do have a wiser population right now that has been empowered from seeing everything that's going on. So if something like that happens, just call it to the attention and do not press vote. Get it. You make sure that your ballot says what you want it to say. I have no problem with people taking pictures of their ballot. Yeah, I took one of the machine showing what I had selected as well as my before I pressed vote, just so that so that you have them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Get an official, call WGMD, and call Newsmax. We'll all be there.
There you go. There you go. So, no, and then in Georgia this morning, Fulton County, anybody recognize the name Fulton County, has unilaterally decided to open up 4 locations to accept absentee ballots that weren't put in the drop boxes. They actually had a hearing about it this morning, and the judge said that it was okay because the statute is silent to it. No, it's not. The statute says that drop boxes, there can be no more drop box votes after the advance period closes. So once early voting closes, you can't have drop box votes. But because these aren't drop boxes, they're drop locations, that's okay. So I was actually on the phone with the chair of the Georgia Republican Party, who is on the phone with attorneys. I mean, they're doing everything that they can to keep this from happening.
Yeah, because 2020 they had the drop box thing, and people were dropping in like hundreds of ballots at one time.
Yep.
If I was Trump or any of his people that are handling his campaign, I'd have at least one person at every one of these places. You go down there, you stand right next to where they drop them, and you stay there. We'll pay you, but you stay there. You do not move. We'll bring you something to eat.
Well, I will say 2 things. Yep, I will say 2 things. One is that the Georgia thing is so offensive because there's an email that says we will not allow poll watchers, that they're going to have security there to keep people from watching. Gee, that doesn't sound suspicious at all.
Yeah.
But I will say this about the RNC and volunteer attorneys. They have at least 500 volunteer attorneys in each battleground state. So right now, the RNC and the volunteer attorneys are on offense. And that has been a difference maker in this election already. You can see the decisions that are coming down right now. I'm unhappy about the Georgia one, but and not knowing Georgia's structure to know whether they can do an emergency appeal. I'm sure that's what they're talking about right now.
It's absolutely a shame that it's come to this.
It is absolutely a shame. Yes, it is.
That we don't.
But I do not want.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I don't want this to dissuade anybody from voting. You've got to get out and vote anyway.
Yeah, but we don't trust our election officials as absolutely non-American. You know, I mean, it's absolutely. It's something from like the Third Reich where you can't trust these people.
Agreed.
And we're the Nazis. You know.
Yeah. Well, the garbage, the deplorables, you name it. We are actually the hipsters now. The Republican Party is what is doing well in pop culture, not the Democrats. So, I mean, this really should be a reckoning on Tuesday.
And it's absolutely hypocritical when they call us all these names, and then they're like, and their violent rhetoric, you know. I'm like,
yeah.
Wait a minute. Did you just not hear what you just said?
Well, and it was hilarious. It's been a week or so ago now where Obama was talking about the divisive name calling, and literally they were calling Trump a Hitler. Hillary is out at the same time saying that he's Hitler, and they all embrace the Hitler thing. So it's just, it's absolutely unbelievable how hypocritical everybody is, but that is what it is. So we just, we got to just keep pointing it out.
It's like the old schoolyard thing. Takes one to know one,
Exactly.
But anyway, it's 11:47, and you got something to do in about 20 minutes. And tell them what it is.
I do.
Well,
I will be there for the show Tipping the Scales of Justice every Saturday from 12 to 2. You can call in with your legal questions. You can come on IndustryNewsOnline.com to do digital questions, but I will be there with bells on at 12:05.
Okie dokie, and it's on IndustryNewsOnline.com, correct?
That is correct.
All right, well, we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Have a good one.
All right, see you. Take care.
Bye-bye. All right, Julianne Murray, the stud of Delaware. What is a woman stud? I don't know. That's what she is. Anyway, you're listening to WGMD 92.7 and 98.5. We are the one and only Talk of Delmarva.
This traffic report is planted to you by Southern States Milford, offering a variety of premium fertilizers for your lawn and farm. Southern States Milford, owned by the community for 75 years.
In the Angola area, Angola Road between Route 24 and Cottage Court is closed through December the 2nd. In Millsboro, Hollyville Road is closed between Route 24 and Washington Street, extended through the 22nd of November. North of Seaford, Bucks Branch Road between Federalsburg and Atlanta Roads is closed for construction till November 15th. And in the Bridgeville area, Business Route 404 between Ray Road and Federalsburg Road is closed for bridge replacement through December 19th. I'm Mary Lou for the Talk of Delmarva Traffic. The Habitat for Humanity of Wicomico County's Restore is in need of donations of building materials, furniture, appliances, tools, lawn equipment, or other household items. All is resold at bargain prices, and the proceeds go towards the construction or rehab of Habitat homes locally. Free pickups are available Tuesday through Thursday every week from Wicomico, Worcester, and Somerset counties. For more information, go to the events calendar under the Extras tab at WGMD.com.
Sunday.
Lamar Jackson is put wide to the right. Derrick Henry takes the direct snap. He runs to the right. He's going to be hit and stopped shy of the first down. So a great drive for the Ravens ends with no points.
The 5-3 Ravens are back home at the bank after a tough loss to Cleveland as they look to bounce back against AFC West opponent, the Denver Broncos. Network pregame at 12:30, kickoff at 1 on WGMD's 92.7.
Early voting in Delaware is underway through Sunday, November 3rd. From October 30th through November 3rd, early voting is available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are multiple locations where you can early vote in each county, including in Sussex County at the American Legion, Post 28 in Oak Orchard, and at the Department of Elections warehouse on South Bedford Street in Georgetown. For more information, go to thetalkofdelmarva.com.
Every year, there's a growing need for children of all ages to find secure and safe families. November is National Adoption Month, and while bringing awareness about adoption, it also helps individuals and families to understand the process and learn more about adoption. Here in the U.S., the first adoption laws weren't passed until 1851. This month acknowledges the commitment and rewards combined with an adoptive family. For more information, go to the Community Outreach under the Extras tab at thetalkofdelmarva.com.
We're at 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD. We give you 10 hours of local programming each weekday and up to 20 overall hours of live programming committed to you, the listener. 92.7 and 98.5, the Talk of Delmarva.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Bright sunshine expected today with daytime highs approaching 64. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows level off around 40 tonight. Clear skies. Daytime highs approaching 62 tomorrow. Lots of sunshine. A blend of clouds and sun and dry. Monday and Tuesday, mid-60s. Monday, mid-70s by Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center along the coast. Currently, it's 63 degrees.
It's Max Power taking your live calls across Delmarva at 302-945-9292, 1-800-518-9292, here on 92.7 WGMD, the talk of Delmarva.
Good morning, Delmarva. My name is Max Power, and I'm going to take you on a ride down to Shagrin Home Comfort Products with the one and only Jake Smith. Take it away, Jake. All right, thank you, Jake. Thank you very much. And now we're going to go to the phones to who I will now be calling Double Dip Bob. Hey, Double Dip Bob, how are you?
Hey, Max, real fast. I'm down here on Route 1 at the Midway Shopping Center. You should see all the people. Oh, my God. The American flags, the Trump flags. I'm just going to walk out of my car, and you can hear them.
I can't hear them.
Oh, you'll hear them. I'm pretty far away. I'm getting up closer now. Sandy's out there taking pictures. We got the Trump flags, the gay flags, the Delaware flag.
Are those gay flags? Are those gay flags Trump gay flags, or are they Harris gay flags?
Yes.
Okay.
Trump gay flags.
Oh wow.
Oh my God! You should see all the people.
You sound like a kid on Christmas Day. You're so giddy. I've never heard you giddy
like
before.
I feel like it. I'll tell you. Well, I love him. So I mean, the guy is great. I love to see this.
Okay.
Stocking, especially in Delaware.
I appreciate the call. I gotta go. I got another call.
Okay, Max. Bye.
Take it easy. Hey, Pat. What's up?
Well, I wanted to give you a little heads up on that stud comment. It's Studette or
I knew
the
that.
boss.
The boss. I knew it was Studette. I don't know what my brain is doing these days. Goodness gracious.
I know. That's all right, brother. That's all right at all.
Anyway.
Yeah, she's amazing, isn't she?
Yeah, you're a lucky dude.
Know Kamala. That there's speculation that Kamala hasn't even passed her bar. That Willie Brown just had it deemed that way, and they say she passed.
Well,
I don't believe it. I don't believe she passed.
He supposedly gave her a job for $250,000 a year that she only had to show up twice a year for. So I mean, come on, that might have even been too hard for her. Come on.
Yeah, that's par for the course. Yeah, well, the first job was for 70 or 80,000, I heard, and then the 251. But I mean, if anybody tries to compare Julianne to that flop, I mean, Julianne went to law school at 38 years old and passed, and took the bar exam at 42 here and passed the first time. And this is one of the hardest ones to pass.
Well,
in the country.
That would be like comparing you to Tim Walz.
That's true.
You ever do that little kick he does?
Yeah, Yeah, he's a paper lion. That's for sure. Or Doug Inhofe, the husband, Mr. Masculinity.
All right, I got to run you out of here, Pat. I appreciate the call. I'm out of time.
No worries, brother.
Have a good one. Thanks.
Have a good one. See you.
Have a good one. All right. That's going to be it for now. I'm going to end the show with 11 things people learn too late in life, and then we'll do the happy trails, and then we'll skedaddle out of here. Well, I don't know. I'm not skedaddling out of here. I don't think. So anyway, you're listening to WGMD 92.7, 98.5. We are the one and only Talk of Delmarva.
11 things people learn too late in life. 1. The less you say, the more your words will matter. 2. Don't take everything personally. Not everyone thinks about you as much as you do. 3. When you focus on problems, you'll have more problems. When you focus on possibilities, you'll have more opportunities. 4. No matter how much it hurts now, someday you will look back and realize your struggle changed your life for the better. 5. You meet people for a reason. Either you need them to change your life, or you're the one that will change theirs. 6. Never be afraid to try something new. Life gets boring when you stay within the limits of what you already know. 7. You will never truly know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. 8. Once you begin to take note of the things you are grateful for, you begin to lose sight of the things that you lack. 9. If you do not have control over your mouth, you do not have control over your future. 10. Life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he thinks in.
The economy is failing, and if I'm elected...
Bombadita, 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 until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and think about sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again.
92.7 WGMD Rehoboth Beach and 98.5 WUSX Seaford, the Talk of Delmarva.
Less than 72 hours. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Both candidates continue to barnstorm in the battleground states.
Vice President Harris will be back in Georgia today to try to fire up voters, but the state has already wrapped up its early voting, so her messaging is all about ensuring that people who have yet to get out and vote won't skip it on Tuesday. The Vice President has 2 high-profile events on her schedule, the event here in Atlanta and then another rally in North Carolina. That one's going to have some celebrity guests, including John Bon Jovi. He's expected to be there. In terms of messaging, Team Harris continues to call Donald Trump unfit for office, and on Friday, Harris called the comments of Liz Cheney unqualifying, but she also appears to be on the defense as she's pressed about why some people feel that they're not better off compared to 4 years ago.
Fox's Mark Meredith. Former President Trump has 2 rallies in North Carolina today with another in Virginia. Former President on Fox and Friends Weekend this morning saying his toughness in relations with China earned their respect.
I took out hundreds of millions of dollars for our country from China, hundreds of millions in taxes and tariffs, and yet I had a very good relationship with presidents. He couldn't have loved me, but we did. We had a very good relationship. I had a good relationship with everybody.
The U.S. Supreme Court decides to stay out of a ballot issue in Pennsylvania.
The Supreme Court rejecting a bid to block the counting of provisional ballots cast by Pennsylvania voters who make mistakes on mail-in ballots. The Republican National Committee in Pennsylvania's GOP party filing an emergency appeal to freeze a ruling from the state's highest court in favor of 2 voters who sued to have their mail-in ballots counted after they were rejected for lacking mandatory secrecy envelopes. The GOP arguing if the ruling was left in place, tens of thousands of provisional votes would be counted in a crucial state that could determine control of the White House and the Senate. Justices noting they couldn't offer relief in part because the case involves just 2 votes in one county and wouldn't have statewide impact. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
America is listening to Fox News.
Source 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the Talk of
Plans are in place for electric vehicle charging stations in several locations serving Delaware's busiest roadways. I'm Mary Lou in the newsroom for the Talk of Delmarva. DelDOT spokesman C.R. McLeod tells the Talk of Delmarva about one of the major concerns regarding electric vehicles.
One of the hurdles for EV adoption is concerns about range and how far you can take these vehicles before they need to be recharged. So the goal of this program is to help address that and establish these fast charging stations in geographically friendly locations that are close to these high traffic corridors.
The charging stations are being funded by a $17.5 million federal grant that Delaware has received for the purpose of these additional charging stations throughout the state. A Salisbury man has been sentenced after his conviction in August for the sexual abuse of a minor. Wicomico County State's Attorney's Office says 36-year-old Darnell Jenkins was sentenced to life plus 65 years in prison. Rehoboth Beach and area firefighters were called to the Taco Bell on Coastal Highway just before 9 o'clock last night, where they found flames on a structural wall at an entrance to the restaurant. Everyone was able to get out of the building safely. Damages estimated at $100,000. A former Easton police sergeant, Jason Diet, was sentenced Friday in circuit court for Talbot County on 2 counts of misconduct in office. He was sentenced on both counts to 4 years of incarceration with all but 6 months suspended. The sentences to be served concurrently. Diet's employment with the Easton Police Department ended effective October 31st of this year. And remember to set your clock back 1 hour when you go to bed tonight. We get an extra hour of sleep as we return to standard time.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Mostly sunny, breezy, and cooler through the day with clear to partly cloudy skies tonight. The low 38 to 48. For Sunday, it'll be mostly sunny with a high 59 to 63. Monday, we'll see clouds with breaks of sunshine and a high 63 to 69. I'm Mary Lou for 92.7 and 98.5, the Talk of Delmarva.
Unlock the power of your home's equity with All-American Mortgage. Transform your home's value into tax-free cash without the burden of monthly mortgage payments. A reverse mortgage not only allows you to retain ownership of your home, but also cover existing mortgage payments and other financial expenses. Plus, you can still leave your home to your heirs. If you're 62 or older and live in Delaware or Maryland, call me, Jim Fritz, with All-American Mortgage at 302-245-2327 for a financial plan focused on all of your goals.
Getting up just as the late bar goers along the coast are going to bed, but before the fishermen head out for the day's catch, and before the bread and milk are delivered to the stores. Mike Bradley and the WGMD morning team are up extra early to gather all the news and information you need to start the day. Weekday mornings, 5 to 9, here on 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva.
Good afternoon, Delmarva. This is Tipping the Scales of Justice with Julianne Murray. I am live in studio for those of you that aren't familiar with Tipping the Scales of Justice. This is a weekly show on Saturdays between 12 and 2 that is hosted by yours truly. I am a Delaware attorney that gives up a couple of hours to take your legal questions. This is your opportunity to get the answer to that legal question that has been on your mind. Don't be shy. If you have a question, I promise I won't bite. And I can almost guarantee that if you have a question, somebody else has that same question. So you're actually helping yourself and somebody else by calling in. What are the numbers? 302-945-9292 or toll free 800-518-9292. You can also watch me live on IndustryNewsOnline.com, and you can submit questions electronically on this site. For you regulars out there, you know that every time I do this show, we share something that are called disclaimers. These disclaimers are in everybody's best interest so that there is no confusion about how we do things here on this show. Here we go.
If you ask your question to Tipping the Scales of Justice, you are not establishing an attorney-client relationship. This show is designed to be a public service where general legal questions can be answered. You may be asked specific questions so that the attorneys can better answer your question, but that does not mean they have become your attorney. Please be mindful that we are trying to get as many callers as possible, so please limit yourself to one question per call. If the attorneys don't know an answer, they aren't going to fake their way through it. The attorneys are going to tell you if they are unsure, and they are going to find the answer. As professionals, they have reference materials available, but might have to find the answers off air and then provide the information later in the show. If you hear us say that we should talk off the air, take the hint that there is something either too specific or too juicy to tie up the airwaves. They will get your contact information off air and follow up at a later date.
Okay, let's get rolling. Again, those phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can also go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. I have a couple of them here, so let's start with that. Paul in Fruitland. Hello, Julianne. Love your show. My question is, I have a vacant wooded lot in Maryland that has large trees on it. A neighbor next to the lot just put up a building right next to the property line. If there is a bad storm and the tree on my lot falls on his building, what liability do I have? Thank you, and go Trump. It is your liability. If the tree, even though the branches are hanging over into his space, you have the tree is yours and it's on your property. So might be worth making sure that your homeowner's policy, it would be covered typically under a homeowner's policy, but make sure that your homeowner's policy has coverage for damage from trees, even if it's on, another lot. But technically, yes, I think you would have the liability on that, even though the building wasn't there. As long as it's within his property line and yours is reaching over the property line, the liability is going to be yours. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Bob and Lewis.
Hey, Bob and Lewis.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No, you go. Well, how are we doing?
Great. This is an election law question.
Go ahead.
Will you take Delaware election law? I heard a rumor, and I understood you were aware of it, that the equipment counting early ballots. And by the way, I don't know. They must have some way to count the cards that when we go to the machines and we make our selection. And then it prints out the cards, and the cards are accepted with the proper names on. So apparently, the machines counting those card ballots was jamming sometimes somewhere. I don't know where they're counted. I don't know that process. I'm sure you do. Is there law? Are there laws besides what the election people do? Is there state law that controls what the Board of Elections can do, or do they kind of make it up on their own? If you don't want to answer that question now, I'll understand. But it is Delaware election law, and since we're all voting now, I thought it might be a good time to ask that question.
No, it's a good question. All right, so let me give a little bit of background just in terms of what we're talking about with the scanners and what's happening there. The scanners in question that were part of the post that started this were actually in Newcastle County at the Carville building up in Wilmington. And so when you vote early voting, just like when you're voting on election day and you all see the ballot there that you check to make sure everything is there and you press vote. On election day, there is a machine count that is being done, like an optical reader that is seeing what is on those ballots and is doing a count. In early voting, that counting is not done. The ballots are actually taken, they are scanned, and they are scanned by an optical reader there in Wilmington or at the Department of Elections in Kent or Sussex. And the count is, they're not, quote, tabulated, but they're scanned. So what happened in Newcastle was big pile of ballots going through, and it spits into two different chutes. One is the accepted ballots, the other is the, quote, rejected ballots. And then the rejected ballots, for whatever reason, whether it's just, who knows, machines jam, were then fed through again. In terms of the standards, the Department of Elections reports to, or is, I'm going to use the word overseen by the State Board of Elections. And there are some statutory provisions about logic and accuracy testing and things like that, but there has not been a ton of it. And so that is part of the worry. So in terms of the error rate on something like this, there is not a set standard that says, hey, if you have an error rate of more than this number, then they have to be hand counted. So what happened, and we have an election integrity task force that has been terrific. They had actually started their work in 22, but then we really ramped it up once I became the chair. And they have pushed and pushed at the Board of Elections. And I have pushed with the Department of Elections as an attorney, but also as a party chair, to say, look, the ballots that there are post-election ballots that statutorily have to happen. It's not every district. Okay, they are, unless there's a recount for an election being super close. But in the normal post-election audit process, the absentee votes and the early ballots were not being counted. Only the election day ballots were being counted. We've pushed, and we've pushed very hard about this. And the Commissioner of Elections sent an email earlier this week in response basically to this post that says, at the last Board of Elections meeting, it was determined that we are going to now include early voting and absentee voting in those post-election audits. So the districts that are chosen, they are going to be hand counted. That's a good thing. So, when I was on with Mike earlier, I think it was Thursday morning early, saying, look, I know that this post is out there. I get it, but I do not want people to say, oh my God, this is awful and I'm not going to vote. You still got to get out there. You still got to vote. There has been some good progress in the auditing so that we can have confidence that if there is, that the counts actually match.
Great. Thank you, and I hope that the other listeners found that information helpful too. The last thing I want to see, of course, is the first thing I want to see is that every single registered voter of all parties gets out and votes, because I want to know what kind of state I'm living in, and the only way to know is to see what the election results are.
Sure.
So, and thank you so much for everything you're doing. I love the fact that you're a national figure now. If you go off and work for Trump, that'll be fine, but I'm going to miss you because we need so many more people like you in the legal profession. I've said this before. I'll say it till as long as I'm alive. We need people like you in the legal profession, not only, as lawyers, but the pro bono work that you're doing now is God's work, and you are one of God's gifts to the United States of America. Of course, Patrick is happy to be your husband in the same way I'm happy to be my wife.
Thank you.
Husband.
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Bob. It is in many respects a thankless job, but thank you for that. I appreciate it.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. I know I got a couple more callers, but just hang tight for me for a second. You are listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
This weather.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk with Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, And we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of a showing with the Delmarva Dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio. Let's go to those phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Julianne. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, Joan.
Yeah, we're nearing the finish line, huh?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we got our fingers crossed and the prayers going right from your mouth to God's ears. But anyway, I have maybe 2 questions, and I'll be quick.
Okay.
You know that expression, where's Waldo? Where's Mitch McConnell and all those dedicated D.C. Republicans? I didn't hear, well, maybe you have or other people, because, believe it or not, I don't have a TV, and I care not to have it. I'm not on the Internet or anything, so I don't hear certain things. Now, did they speak out about the assassination attempts of Donald Trump or backing him up and letting him know and, showing a little anger towards what's going on? And lastly, about the ballot boxes. Now they have to ramp up security. The people go out, they go through the trouble of early voting. So not that it's trouble, don't get me wrong.
I get you.
But they're going out, they're doing that, they're feeling hopeful, and now we have to worry about a bunch of morons burning the ballots. Now that security, I'm sure you're aware of it, what preventative? I mean, it's almost impossible to prevent every one of the morons from trying to cheat or do something.
Okay, a couple of things there, and yeah, you're right. So in terms of the outrage from the assassination attempt, there were some, House and Senate. Mitch McConnell, not super vocal, I don't recall if he actually made a statement, but he is just, oh my gosh. The biggest thing that he has announced lately is that he's going to step down as the Senate Minority Leader. Oh, thank God. Time has come. I do know that recently he has been, I'm going to use the word involved, and that's in quotation marks, sending money, because they've created a PAC. They're sending money to Nevada, particularly for the Senate race there, because it's a very close Senate race where the Republicans could actually pick up a seat in Nevada. He personally isn't helping anything, and frankly, if he opens his mouth, I think he hurts whatever he talks about. So
That's
just
true, too.
keep your mouth shut. Just go do your thing. In terms of the ballot boxes, and I mean, so here in Delaware, the drop boxes are at Department of Elections, at the actual Department of Elections. So it's kind of easy. We talked about it in 22, basically putting up ring cameras if we had to record what was going on. However, other states definitely have more of them, and so the picture that has come out from, it's either Washington State or Oregon, I think it's Washington, of them burning the ballots in the box is just going to happen, unfortunately. I think that but people are just wiser to it, and are paying attention. I think we've got some very vigilant citizens who are organizing watches. It's not that hard, particularly after we saw the movie from after 22, the 2000 Mules, and what was happening there. I think we know where those locations are. So, and I was speaking with Max as I was driving in Georgia. They have unilaterally in Fulton County decided to accept ballots for 4 extra days at a designated location, which is not where the drop box is. Gee, do you think they're trying to get some ballots in because they can see what the numbers are looking like? And the first judge actually said, well, the statute's silent to it because they're not actually boxes, they're locations. You've got to be freaking kidding me. But I know. I was texting with the Georgia State Chair of the GOP. He was on the phone with the lawyers. I mean, we are on offense legally. I did a conference call with Michael Whatley, Lara Trump, Chris LaCivita, and Josh Helton, who heads up the election integrity section. All the members were invited to it Thursday, and they said that as far as the legal challenges go, the RNC is on offense. We actually have Mark Elias and the Democrats on defense right now, and that's where we've always needed to be. It's finally here. And so in terms of the money from RNC itself, as well as they made a goal to have 500 volunteer attorneys in each battleground state, and they hit that goal. In terms of poll watchers and poll workers, they had a goal of 100,000 in the country. They got 230,000 volunteers to be poll watchers and poll workers.
Good.
So there are some things that are happening that, all of the shenanigans that happened this week in Pennsylvania, all was captured. I mean, so when Bucks County pulled their stunt earlier this week, and we were able to capture it, get a judge involved, and open that polling place. And yesterday people waited in line for 5 and 6 hours because they're trying to suppress the Republican vote. And people waited. They were brought drinks and food. So, I will be glad when Tuesday comes and goes.
You better believe it.
Yeah, but we have to stay super vigilant because they're afraid. And people who are backed into a corner do desperate things. And there's definite cause for concern about different election integrity issues.
Well, that gives us hope, Julianne, and there's always going to be somebody out there trying to pull something. They always got something up their sleeve, but we can't let them see fear. We shouldn't allow that. A lot of people allow that to stop them from voting and stop them from doing certain things in life, but we can't let it. We can't let them win. We just cannot.
No, and I want Delaware voters out there voting. I want you to vote for Trump. Yeah, I want you to vote for our Republican candidates. But get out there and vote. Let's get those. The more that we have in early voting, the better I think we are. I don't, and the pitch that I've been making and will continue to make is if you wait until Election Day, you're waiting until the last minute, and there are things that can happen on Election Day, power out.
Yes.
There's all sorts of things that can happen. So, we definitely need people to vote.
You said it. Well, anyway, thanks a lot again for everything. God bless and take care, and God bless America and our President, Donald Trump.
Thank you, Joan. Have a great day. Thank you. All right, let's go to those phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Grace, and I'm calling from Ocean View.
Hey, Grace, how can I help you today?
I'm calling about voter registration. So I'm at my polling place, and I got turned away and was told I was ineligible to vote because my voter registration is dated October 22nd. But I was under the impression Delaware allowed same-day registration to vote.
No, we don't. The cutoff was October 12th. For voter registration, and we do not have same-day registration.
Yeah, okay, well, that answers the question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Grace. Sorry to hear that you can't vote. So this is, and one of the things that people were concerned about heading into this election, that, that cutoff date is that you can, that there could be people who want to register in that last month. But the theory behind this is that by cutting off on October 12th, we locked down the list. We knew who the eligible voters were. And, that is actually why same-day registration, it was part of the lawsuit that happened in 22 over vote by mail, that it's not constitutional because our Constitution has those timing elements in there on purpose for a reason. But bummer that in this case, Grace is not going to be able to vote. I've got a digital question here. I've only got a minute, but I'll read the question and then we'll come back in at the bottom of the hour. But it says, it's from Emmy in Bridgeville. Can the beneficiary of an insurance policy be a trust? And if so, how would that be set up? My sister has a large policy, $1.5 million, and it goes to her husband who is older, and the contingent beneficiaries are her 2 children. Her concern is that her husband may not distribute the funds to the children, but use it all himself. Okay, there's a couple of things to unpack here. And like I said, if I don't finish it, I will redo this at the bottom of the hour. Yes, a trust can be named as a beneficiary of a life insurance policy. It's a piece of paper. It's a beneficiary designation where, in this case, your sister would say the beneficiary is my trust. It's not her husband. It's not her children. It's the trust. And then within the trust distributes those proceeds. With what you're describing here, with her husband as the primary and her children as the contingent, he has no obligation to pass anything on to those children. He is the primary beneficiary. They are only there if he dies first. So absolutely, if she's concerned and wants the money to get to those children, she needs to name the trust as the beneficiary and then amend the trust to include where those proceeds go. Thanks very much for the question. You're listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Hutton from Rehoboth Beach Running Company. We've been in this location for about 8 years, and we've been in business for about 16 years. We're pretty much busy every day, all year round now. Since we've been advertising with the Talk of Delmarva, everywhere we go, people seem to know about us. I like working with other small businesses. We work with a lot of small businesses, and advertising is no different. And we like for people to come in and actually see our store. Yeah. So when people from the Talk of Delmarva have seen our store, they understand it better. Some of their other customers shop at our store, and it's really a small town kind of life. And people shop local, advertise local, listen to the local radio. It all kind of comes full circle. So how has the marketing department helped us? Well, I love that Laura's she's always looking ahead at the calendar, because as a small business person, I'm very busy and I'm kind of thinking of last minute things. And so Laura's always ready for the sidewalk sale. She knows it's a big deal for us. And so you want to get the word out a little bit early. And the sidewalk sale this year was better than ever. And I think it's in great part to Laura's planning and the commercials, so people know that the whole town is having a sidewalk sale and that we have big sales at that time of year. I didn't really know what to expect in the beginning, because I didn't know whether she'd know our business. I don't know if she would know runners and all about, but she listens very carefully and she researches and she really tries to gear our ads towards our business, and she does an excellent job. I think people really more now than ever want to shop local. I think people want to support local businesses and help the community. And so when people know that we are a small business that meets their needs, they'd rather shop here than go online or some other way. So I think people really want to help themselves and help the community. We have attracted our ideal customer at the Talk of Delmarva. We service people from, 12 years old or even younger to 95-year-olds. So yeah, I think our ads are doing a great job of bringing customers to us. The Talk of Delmarva advertising has helped with our marathon also. So I organized the Rehoboth Marathon and Half Marathon in December, and we sell out earlier and earlier every year. And I think that's due in part to advertising with the Talk of Delmarva. The people know that we have a running store and that we also have this big race at a great time of year, and people sign up earlier and earlier every year. I really do believe that the return on investment is huge. I think we definitely got return on our investment quickly. Every dollar spent was well worth it. I would highly recommend for other businesses to advertise on the Talk of Delmarva. It's been a great experience for us. It's been very worthwhile, and I would highly recommend it to other businesses.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
On the call, Baltimore Ravens football, presented by the original Green Turtle in North Ocean City on WGMD's 92.7.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray, live in studio. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. On Emmy's question from Bridgeville about can the beneficiary of an insurance policy be a trust, and if so, how would you go about it? I want to make sure, and I want to expand a little bit on that, and that is that when there is a life insurance policy, if a person is named, it is not subject to probate. It's not going to be dictated by your will or your trust. Okay, so a trust can behave like a will. It can say where your stuff goes when you die. But if you have a life insurance policy, if you have an investment account, an IRA, 401k, anything where you can name a beneficiary, if you name a person or people, that is who the money goes to, and whatever you say in your document happens has no effect. So there's a lot of people who think, for instance, in this case, a life insurance policy, they name a person and in their will they say, my life insurance gets split 3 ways. It will never get split 3 ways because the person or people that are named on the policy as beneficiaries, it goes directly there. So in this scenario where we're talking about wanting to have control over the $1.5 million payout from the life insurance policy, it is absolutely critical that the trust document be named as the beneficiary, and to either amend the trust if the trust doesn't already say it, or make sure that the trust says, with respect to my life insurance policy or the life insurance policy owned by the trust, this is where it needs to go. If you don't specify what happens in the document, then whatever money comes from that life insurance policy, if the trust is named as the beneficiary, is part of the residuary trust. So you'd have to look and see where everything goes, at the end after all of the specific bequests are given. But this is a really good question and something that people need to be cognizant of. The same thing is also true with bank accounts. So you've heard me say before, TOD, transfer on death, or POD, payable on death, for your bank accounts. If you do that, then the money goes directly to the person or people that you name. No probate, no estate tax, no inheritance tax. It just goes directly to them. It's a great thing to avoid the probate fee. If you don't name a beneficiary, it's going to come into your estate. It's going to be subject to the probate fee, and it's going to then follow whatever your document or documents say. Last thing on this about naming beneficiaries, and that is IRAs. You do not want to name the trust as a beneficiary if you have an IRA. In 2020, the law changed. It was amended again in 22 about retirement accounts. It used to be that if you named your children as beneficiaries, you can name your spouse and then your children, that it would go to your children as a retirement account. They figured out they were missing a whole bunch of income tax on that. So now, if you name your children on an IRA, they have to take that IRA within 10 years of your death as taxable income. You heard me right. They get to choose whether they take it in lump sum or whether they take it 10% a year for 10 years. But that IRA account is not going to go to them as an IRA. It's going to go as taxable income for 10 years after you die. So, but it's still critical that a person is named, because if a trust is named, it gets whacked in taxes. It's taken as a one lump sum distribution, and it ends up really causing problems from an estate planning standpoint. So I know that's a lot there, but Emmy, I appreciate the question and hope that your sister, that you're listening, and that your sister does name the trust as the beneficiary on that life insurance policy, and make sure that the trust document says what happens to the monies from that policy. Okay, we've got another phone numbers, 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. Let's do another digital question from Walton Lewis. Did I understand correctly that the city of Lewis was removing campaign signage from around the Rollins Center? Did they not get the memo that Election Day is now 10 days earlier? Amen. Yes, you heard correctly. It caused supposedly the city of Lewis has an ordinance, or it's part of their code, that says that you can't have election signs. I heard about it on the first day. I think that there is absolutely an argument that any voting location is basically, I'm going to use the word for lack of property of the Department of Elections, and that signage ought to be allowed. But we had a conversation within the team. It was just kind of, you have to kind of pick your battles. But yes, I did hear that the city was removing the campaign signage. And yes, it caused a bit of a hiccup. And I don't know, that was on the very first day. I don't know what happened on subsequent days, because I did not hear. Okay. In terms of where we are with the election and early voting, you've heard we've talked about it ad nauseum. Early voting is still available to Delaware for today and tomorrow between the hours of 7 and 7. There will be no early voting on Monday. Everything will be kind of locked down on Monday and set up for Tuesday for the general election. You've heard people say that this is the election of our lifetimes. It is. It's not hyperbole. It's not trite. It is absolutely, there's just so much on the line here. I want you to, it's very important, to vote. And if waiting in line stinks, then go early vote. Yes, there are lines in early voting, but right now, the first couple of days were super busy, but right now we're averaging about between 20 and 23,000 people a day are early voting. So it's not out of control lines, and we need to be taking advantage of that, because Election Day, there are a lot of people that are waiting until Election Day. I have no problem with that as long as you vote. But if you wait until Election Day and then have to wait in line and are either mad that you had to wait in line, then tough cookies. You could have voted early, but you make sure that you vote and that you leave adequate time, because it's just too important to not do it this time around. I think I have another digital question, but I need it pushed across because I can't, my mouse is not working properly. So to the producer there we go. Wonderful. It says, in trusts and, wow, this mouse is just being really a pain right now. And I can't, all right. So in trusts with personal restrictions such as no tattoos, drugs, if a trust recipient violates the restriction, how do their funds get redistributed? Good question. And it has to do with how the distribution happens. In general, if there are restrictions in there, it's not an outright trust distribution. So there will be something like it can be distributed 10% a year for 10 years, so long as whoever it is has no tattoos and isn't on drugs. To use these restrictions that are being listed here. So that first 10% is going to get distributed, assuming that that they don't have tattoos and aren't on drugs. That first 10%. The next go round, if they do, it's not distributed. It is, some trusts will have what's called a clawback provision in it that will say basically the person has to pay it back, but not very successful with that. In general, when people inherit sums of money, they spend it. They don't just go stick it in their bank account somewhere. They spend it, and so the clawbacks generally do not happen. I have actually seen trust documents that have restrictions on it about sobriety because there's a child that's an alcoholic, and they have to demonstrate that they're sober in order to get the distributions. So these kinds of restrictions absolutely happen, but generally it will stop future distributions, but unusual to have that clawback, to have a clawback that actually works, that you're going to be able to get the money back. The thing that is difficult about that is whoever the trustee is. The trustee is carrying out the wishes. The trustee is the manager. So when you have a trust and you're naming, for instance, your children as the beneficiaries, and you have, for instance, restrictions on a distribution for one of your children, depending on who you name as the successor trustee, you're potentially pitting your children against each other. So when I have somebody who has this, I encourage them to have somebody that is not one of the other beneficiaries as the trustee, because you're putting that person in the position of being the babysitter and the bad guy. And it just, it defeats the purpose of good estate planning, where you're trying to stop those fights. So, it's very important if you're going to have, you're not required. Okay. So just because, you can have one of your children be the successor trustee and they can be a beneficiary. It is not required that you have an independent successor trustee. What I'm saying is that if you are going to spread money out over a longer period of time, or you're going to put conditions on it, then I would have a different successor trustee, so that you're not, that your kids are not, basically babysitting each other after you die. So that's trusts in a nutshell. You're listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great, and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk of Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, And we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of a showing with the Delmarva Dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio. I just got a text message. Tons of our big Trump signs are missing. We bought a bunch and put them up and down Route 1, put them all over the place. You should bring up that stealing political signs is illegal, so that way it can be reported. Yeah, at least 10 of them. So, gee, sign stealing. There's a novel concept. It also lets us know that we're over the target. If they weren't worried that Trump was going to be popular, they wouldn't be worried about taking away the signs. But signs, I mean, it is personal property. It is a crime to steal them. And if you see somebody stealing signs, get a video of them. It should absolutely be reported. If you want to report it to local authorities, that's fine. You want to report it to the party, that's fine, and we can do what we want. But basically, apparently, people are taking the Trump signs. Stakes are still there, but the signs themselves are gone. I know that there was a community here in Sussex County that had that happen. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that it's always the Republican signs that are getting stolen. It's not the Democrat signs that are getting stolen, and that it is just ridiculous. We all have a right to free speech, and if our speech is putting a sign in our yard, buzz off. Don't come into my yard, and let us say what we want to say. You get to say what you want to say, but people just stink. And it's unfortunate. So 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. Digital questions, you go to industrynewsonline.com. Jennifer in Dagsboro said, on the new IRA distribution rules, is there a grandfather clause? No. Anybody who died, I think the act went effective in 2020. It may have gone effective January 1. But it was a hard date of if the person died before that date, old distribution rules. If they died on that date or after, new distribution rules. Now, for spouses, you can still inherit that as an IRA. And if you are, when you inherit the IRA, if you're at an age where you can take distributions, you can take it as an IRA. If you inherit an IRA, you can also create your own IRA. What I'm not sure about is whether you are restricted to how much you can move into it each year, basically. So like with if you have your own individual retirement account, you can put about $14,000 a year in pre-tax. If you move more than that, it's not considered pre-tax. When you're doing an inherited IRA, if you're creating your own, I don't know whether those limits still apply to that. But let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, is this me?
It is you. You are on the air. What's your name?
Okay, my name is Carol Floral. I have a quick question. You see a lot of ads for the home title lock thing, where they're stealing home titles.
Yep.
How prevalent is that in Delaware?
It's not very prevalent. And the reason is that in Delaware, we have transfer tax that is assessed at the transfer. It's 4%, normally split between buyer and seller. There are exemptions, but there are not a ton of them. So when you go to record a deed here in Delaware, the recorder of deeds is looking for transfer tax. And so that helps keep this at bay a little bit. Other states that don't have that, it's more prevalent, but what people don't realize is that, and why these title lock things exist, is it is not required that an attorney prepare a deed and file it. So a regular person can go on the internet, create a deed, and with the advent of online deeds, you can see who the prior owner is. You can see what the signature looks like. I mean, all of that information is now available. So that is why the fraud started happening, was you could actually see this and make that happen. In Sussex County, we have, if you on the internet, if you go to the Sussex County Recorder of Deeds and look around, there's a spot where you can do a sign up that would tell you if there was anything recorded against your property. So, for those that don't want to buy the title lock insurance or do something like that, if you want to have an alert that something has been recorded, you can sign up. It's free. You can sign up for an alert if there were something that were recorded. And if something like that happened, then, get the authorities involved if it's fraudulent and go from there.
Okay, very good. Thank you. One more question.
Go, you're fine.
Not a question, a statement. Make sure everybody who votes for Trump votes the complete down ballot for all Republicans, and let's get these commie Democrats out of office. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Carol. Way to squeeze that in. You're totally fine. This is, and I will tell you, I've been told by a lot of people that there is a lot of people are voting straight ticket. They're getting in, they're starting with Trump and just going right down the ticket. And there are a lot of Democrats that are doing that on the Republican side. So yes, I obviously, as the GOP chair, I want my GOP candidates to be elected, and that is who I am pushing for. So, at the statewide level, obviously, federal is President Trump, and then statewide would be Mike Ramone for governor, Ruth Briggs King for lieutenant governor, Eric Hansen for Senate, John Whalen for Congress, and Ralph Taylor for Insurance Commissioner. Something else that someone just sent to me, that when we're talking about election integrity, I know people are nervous about it. We have actually, I mentioned earlier that we have an election integrity task force that was working on the audits and attending meetings. We've also put together, that same task force has put together checker challengers. We have checker challenger liaisons in each county, have recruited, have a lot of people that are willing to step up and be checker challengers, have trained them. So we're going to have eyes in the polling place, but we are going to have signage at each polling location. It's yellow that says, see something, say something, delaware.protectthevote.com, election issue, call now, and there is a phone number. So we have created, we're going to have what's called a war room. It's going to be at our Wilmington headquarters. I will be there at 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning with several volunteers who are taking phone calls. We've set up a phone bank so that if something happens at a polling place, we have a central location where we want people to call. That number is on the sign. We're going to put it out heavily, but for those of you who are just kind of sitting there and like, gee, I wonder what the number is, it's 302-600-4163. That is the number that if you see something that is, feels off, you can call that number. The people will be taking down the information. We have a reporting form that will allow a report so that we can kind of see if there's a trend. So for instance, in 22, when we had polling places that ran out of ballots for the machines, it was scattered around Newcastle County. I, as a candidate, didn't hear about it until 7:45 on election night. So we want to make sure that we have a central location so that we can see if there's a prevalent problem. I have the commissioner of elections and all three of the state or the county directors on speed dial. I mean, we're going to be pushing this, but we want people to feel the presence of watchers and workers that are paying attention to this. And then if you want to report it, you can call into this number. As part of that, that does not mean you're automatically getting a call back. You're going to talk to a live body, that we're making sure of, but it's really a reporting line, and then we're going to be making decisions up there. But I have actually reached out to the RNC and been provided with what I'm going to call a brief bank of complaints on particular issues. They're Pennsylvania, so that I could tweak them to Delaware. But when I mentioned earlier that we are on the offense nationally, we're on the offense here in the state too, and making sure that if something happens, we're ready to legally challenge it if we had to. Now, a word of caution: we also get erroneous reports. People because people are so suspicious at this point, not unjustifiably, but are so suspicious at this point, they're looking for everything. And so we get calls, I expect that we're going to get calls that aren't really an issue. So, so I do ask to, for people that are watching, just, kind of take a pause, see if it's, think it through, see if it's, if there's anything, if it feels legit. Call it in. We will sort through what is a real issue and what is not. But there are help desks in each of the counties with the Department of Elections. We are actually asking, if it's an election integrity issue, to call us. Let us then push the county locations, the county directors, and we will do what we can with that. I have a caller. I'm going to take it, but we're probably not going to be able to answer the question. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, Sean from Bridgeville. How you doing, Julianne?
I'm good. If the music starts, can you just hang on for me for a couple minutes because we're at the top of the hour?
Real quick question. Does Delaware use Dominion machines?
Not Dominion. We use what's called ES&S, but very similar. They all kind of have the same roots. So,
gotcha,
yeah.
Because I was seeing where the straight ticket was being messed up in certain areas of different states.
Yeah, no, we're watching for sure. Appreciate it, Sean. Okay, you're listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the Talk of Delmarva.
Every day with news, talk, and sports. Over 40 years strong. 92.7 WGMD. Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City.
Lifting the battlegrounds. I'm Pam Puso, Fox News. The race for the White House is in the home stretch. Vice President Kamala Harris will hold events in North Carolina and Georgia. Fox's Mark Meredith is in Atlanta.
Vice President Harris is expected to have quite a large crowd when she takes the stage right here behind me in downtown Atlanta. It is one of two stops she's making today. She's going to also be in North Carolina for a rally in Charlotte. We're certainly seeing the campaign move focus on those Sunbelt states as they try to get out the vote. Over the last few days, and of course the next few days ahead, we've seen the Vice President barnstorm the battleground states, making stops in places like Michigan as well as Wisconsin. And last night, while she was holding her event there in Wisconsin, she told the crowd she wants to campaign as a moderate to make sure people do not think she's going to enact a far-left agenda. Here in Georgia, early voting has already wrapped up, and the numbers are quite impressive. More than 3.7 million votes cast early.
Before heading out this morning, the vice president spoke from Milwaukee.
My plan includes addressing the issue of affordable housing, including for first-time home buyers, giving them a $25,000 down payment assistance.
Earlier today, former President Trump called in to Fox and Friends Weekend, attempting to smooth over the blowback among Hispanic voters following a comedian's joke about Puerto Rico during last weekend's rally at Madison Square Garden. The comic called Puerto Rico an island of garbage.
Nobody's been better to Puerto Rico than me. I saved Puerto Rico when they had some of the worst hurricanes, really bad. I brought in the hospital ship, the Mercy. I brought in this massive hospital ship. There's nobody, and Puerto Ricans will tell you that, nobody's done more for Puerto Rico than me.
The former president is going to rally in North Carolina and then later today in Virginia. America's listening to Fox News.
Source 92.7 and 98.5 WGND, the talk of Delmarva.
In Delaware, on average, about 1,000 new electric and hybrid vehicles are registered in the state each month. I'm Mary Lou in the newsroom for the Talk of Delmarva. With the number of electric vehicles growing, the demand is also growing for charging stations. Plans are underway for the charging stations to be installed throughout the first state, particularly in high-traffic areas. DelDOT spokesman C.R. McLeod tells the Talk of Delmarva when drivers can expect to see those stations installed.
Our hope is that we will see these installed and completed within the next year. So that's the goal that we are working toward.
And the process that is now underway includes getting the contract signed and the locations finalized. A Laurel, Delaware man has pleaded guilty in the U.S. District Court for the District of Delaware to possessing child sexual abuse material. Court documents show that between August 21st and 24th of 2021, 38-year-old Michael Natale received 12 videos and 1 image file depicting child porn and sent 6 videos and 1 image of child porn to another user on the social media platform Kik. Natale will be sentenced on February 27th of next year. He has a previous conviction related to child porn offenses and faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years in prison and a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. The other user was also arrested by FBI agents in New Jersey. Somerset County Circuit Court Judge Daniel Powell on Monday sentenced 41-year-old William Pruitt of Crisfield to life in prison after Pruitt pleaded guilty to the first-degree murder of 27-year-old Daquan Fields of Princess Anne in January of 2023. Fields was reported missing in 2023. His Gold Dodge Durango later found at the Deal Island Wildlife Nature Preserve. Pruitt was indicted for Fields' murder this past May. And remember to set your clocks back 1 hour when you go to bed tonight. We get an extra hour of sleep as we return to standard time.
WGND AccuWeather.
Mostly sunny, breezy, and cooler through the day with clear to partly cloudy skies tonight. The low 38 to 48. For Sunday, mostly sunny with a high 59 to 63. Monday, clouds and breaks of sun. The high 63 to 69. I'm Mary Lou for 92.7 and 98.5, the Talk of Delmarva.
Explore the 5,000 square foot outdoor superstore right in Millsboro. Kelly's Outdoors is now selling new firearms. Kelly's is fully stocked for hunting season. Browse through a huge variety of new guns, massive amounts of ammo, durable hunting wear, and precision archery supplies. The team members at Kelly's are highly experienced hunters, ready to equip you with the right gear. Visit the locals' favorite outdoor superstore. Open every day at 8:30 a.m. east side of Millsboro on Route 24. Kelly's Outdoors, racks, fins, feathers.
Early voting in Delaware is underway through Sunday, November 3rd. From October 30th through November 3rd, early voting is available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are multiple locations where you can vote early in each county, including in Sussex County at the early voting site at the Midway Shopping Center on Coastal Highway at Midway, the Rollins Community Center in Lewis, and the Millville Community Center. For more information, go to thetalkofdelmarva.com.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio. We're in our second hour. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. Or you can go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. Let's go to the phone line. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Father John.
Hey, Father John. How are you?
I'm in one piece for the piece I'm in. I was wondering, when did he count the ballots?
When do they count the ballots? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
After
Right.
the polls close on election night. So after 8 p.m. on Tuesday.
That's all the ones from the the ones that aren't going to be here. Put them in with absentee and the early votes.
Okay.
All get counted
All
after
right.
the elections. The ballot, the precincts close.
Okay, so how this works, they have been scanned, the early voting and the absentee voting, but they have not been tabulated. There is what we're told. So after 8 p.m. on Tuesday night, the absentee ballots and the early ballots that have been scanned, they push a tabulate button and it tabulates. Now, there's a lot. We've had some good turnout between absentee and early voting. We're over 200,000 people who have taken advantage of this. So I don't think that it's quite that instantaneous. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than that, but but those are already scanned and ready, and ready to tabulate. As far as the machine vote from Tuesday, those machines in the voting locations are tabulating as it's going through, and then all of those, the USB sticks from all of the machines then are provided to the Department of Elections after the polling place closes. So it takes a couple hours. So realistically, 10 o'clock-ish, 10:30 on election night, the tabulation should be pretty close.
Okay. Thank you. God
You're
bless
welcome.
you. And thank you for the good work you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
God bless.
God bless you too, Father John. Thank you so much. I've got a digital question here. Why are the Democrat candidates being so secretive and not revealing the locations of their election night parties? It's kind of funny. I also heard Sarah McBride did a town hall and wouldn't reveal the location until people had registered. In theory, the reason they're saying they're doing that is that they don't want bad actors to crash the parties. The reality is that the Democrats are the ones who bring the issues to these kinds of gatherings. So I think that they're doing it so that they have the optics of, oh, those bad Republicans are just going to be bad actors, when it's not us that are the bad actors. But I know that Lisa Blunt Rochester is not revealing where her election night party is, and is waiting until people register. I can say that when I was running for AG, we did something similar. We did not give away the location until we knew who the person was that registered for it. At that point, there was a whole lot of security concerns in 22 with Hunter Biden and everything that was going on when I was running for AG. So, I can't say that it's never happened before, but in theory, it has to do with controlling who's coming to it and having a screening process so that you have people that you want at the party. Another question here. Years ago, I signed up for the deed alert notices. Several years later, I refinanced. This past week, I received notice from the county of the change. Why did it take so long to receive the notice? I have no idea. And particularly because when you refinance, you don't typically redeed the property. It's the only time that on a refi a deed is being completed is if there is either a name change or a party change. So you're adding a spouse, you are taking off a spouse, and you're refining, then a deed would be completed, and it would be part of this reporting. But do not know what the delay was on that. What is your guess on the time of day when local and Delaware statewide results will be known? Like I said, I think it could be as late as 11 o'clock on Tuesday night, but it all comes down to how quickly, when they push tabulate, they've scanned all of the absentee ballots. They will have scanned all of the early voting. That's part of the reason Monday is not an early voting day. It's the day where they can transition. They can get all the voting machines to the regular polling places, get everything set up, but it's also so that they can scan the rest of the ballots from Sunday's early voting. All of that is already going to be scanned, so it comes down to how quickly that quote-unquote tabulate works for stuff that has already been pre-scanned. And then it's just a logistics thing with getting the reporting from the different polling places. So a lot of candidates, I know that we've told our checker challengers, when the closeout is done after the polling place closes, bear in mind polls close at 8 o'clock, but if you're in line, you still get to vote. So depending on what the lines are like, if polling places are not closing exactly on time because they have people in line, that can happen. But when all of the voting has been completed and the shutdown procedure is done, we have made it a priority to have checker challengers in the polling places to watch that shutdown happen. That is when the machine tape is run that totals everything for that polling place. They send one to, or more than one maybe, to the Department of Elections, but they post one on the door. And this has been happening for years. Candidates have volunteers that go around and take the pictures of the different polling places. In the representative districts particularly, this is possible because it's not as high a number in terms of just raw numbers of voters. And so if you go to the different polling places, you can get a kind of a preview sense of what's happening and know what the count is. I know that in when the special election happened in December for Valerie Jones Giltner, we had people at polling places and knew what those numbers were. So it didn't take until the Department of Elections announced it. We sort of knew based on looking at that. But from an official standpoint, those USBs have to be transported. And it takes time. So realistically, I think when the primary, we knew 9:30, 10 o'clock. It could go as late as 11, but I do think we're going to know on Tuesday night. And then in terms of how Delaware handles elections, 2 days later is when the quote-unquote Board of Canvass is convened in the Superior Court in each county, and they, I'm going to use the word certify, the election. So if there's any issues, the issue would be raised at the Board of Canvass to stop the certification if necessary. So in that sense, I'm going to use the word thankful for that extra day of Wednesday to kind of see where everything falls. Now, that's if we're dealing with a state election law issue. If it's a federal issue, a little bit different. You could still assert that at the Board of Canvass, but the Board of Canvass is supposed to actually canvass the vote. It's not supposed to be this ceremonial thing, and they have a real job when there is a very tight election. There is a recount that is done if it's within 0.5%. So, lots of different things. We will know more obviously Tuesday night, but all of that is, it is in play. So you are phone numbers, and then we're going to hop away for a second. 302-945-9292, 800-518-9292. You can go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. This is the Talk of Delmarva.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk of Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, and we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of a showing with the Delmarva Dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
Back to Tipping the Scales of Justice, Julianne Murray. We're at about 1:18, so we have about a little less than 45 minutes. Phone numbers 302-945-9292 or 800-518-9292. You can also go online to industrynewsonline.com and submit questions electronically. What are the rules regarding political sign removal after the election? They have to be removed within 30 days of the election. And I know that there were a lot of signs that were still out after the primary because it was the same 30 days after the primary, but they didn't really patrol it because a lot of people were allowed to keep their signs out there for the general if they won the primary. So technically the people who lost the primary should have had their signs up within 30 days. A lot of them didn't. And yeah, I mean, I just don't think that they spent any time really enforcing anything on that. Jose said, can a person not register to vote in Sussex in the general election using a provisional ballot? No. Provisional ballots are used if there is a question as to the registration for some reason. Like it's like you go in and you say, hey, I registered. I know that I've registered. You can show that you've registered, but for some reason on the website or on the election records, it's not showing that you've registered. If there's a question about registration, that is when a provisional ballot is used. You cannot register for the first time and use a provisional ballot. We do not have same-day registration, and so nope, unfortunately, you cannot do that, or fortunately, depending on how you're looking at it. Wanda, can you give that phone number again to report any election issues? Thank you. Keep up the great work you do for all of Delaware. I appreciate that. All right, phone number is, and this is what you're going to use on Tuesday. If there are any questions, or any election, see something, say something, 302-600-4163. That is not the only phone line that we have. That's the main number, but we have a hunt group. I think we have 5 lines that we're using. The other thing is the website, delaware.protectthevote.com. If you want to fill out a report, you can do that. That's going to get to us. Okay, so and like I said, I mean, we've all been conditioned to the see something, say something in airports and things like that. Now it's the phrase for the election day. 302-600-4163 is the phone number, and then the website is delaware.protectthevote.com. If you don't want to call but you just want to submit something, that is perfectly fine. We're going to be able to see those. Remember, my point here is that if we have everything coming into a central location, we're going to be able to see if there is a trend, if there is an issue that is more than, that is bigger for whatever that reason is. Like I said, the example from 22 was the polling places that ran out of ballots or did not have ballots. I did not know it until much later in the day, like the polls were getting ready to close. So, we want to be able to avoid that and make sure that we have, that information coming in. But I want people to be judicious in what they're reporting. Just, remember, we're human beings. We're going to be dealing with a whole lot of stuff. So be patient, but definitely get those reports. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, my name's Brian. I'm calling from Lincoln.
Hey, Brian, how can I help you today?
On the early voting, those votes are counted daily. And what happens to those counts? Why can't we know ahead of time? Let's say you said 8,000 people voted today, and so many votes were. Why can't we know the results of those votes now? Why do we have to wait until after 8 o'clock to know the results of what's taking place every day?
That's a great question. So they are scanned every day, but not tabulated every day. So that's that's the distinction. And I think that the theory is that you do not. We want people to we still want people to go vote, whether it's in the rest of the early voting period or on election day. But constitutionally and statutorily, election day is when results come out, or should. So I think that if there were early reporting that were done, that would frustrate that purpose. Now, we can tell, so in terms of, I know the daily numbers of how many people are voting, and I know the party breakout of those votes. And so we can extrapolate from that. But who they actually voted for, we will not know until Election Day, because that's just, the results all come out on Election Day once everybody has voted. They don't want to preliminarily release stuff because it could affect turnout. And I can tell you, in 2020, when I ran for governor, the AP called the race at like 10 after 8, and it was because of all of the absentee ballots. There were over 100,000 absentee ballots that were in that race. There were people that were still in line wanting to vote that saw that the race had been called, who were calling me flipping out, feeling like, hey, I didn't get, why am I even bothering to vote if they've already called the race? So I think that we want people to stay engaged in the process, and if they know which way it's leaning, they may not engage quite the same way.
Are the figures available to the public then of how many Democrats voted yesterday and how many Republicans voted yesterday, for example?
They aren't. Well, they could be, but I mean, I'm happy to share it. So statewide at this point through yesterday, 210,000 people have voted either by absentee or by early voting. 175,000 of that is early voting, in-person early voting.
How many of those people are registered Democrats and how many are registered Republicans? Do you have that info?
Yep, roughly 76,000 Democrats. This is in the early voting numbers. Okay, so the in-person early voting. Roughly 76,000 Democrats, 62,000 Republicans, 36,000 unaffiliated.
Which are considered independents. Or whatever.
Correct.
So at the end of the voting, at 8 o'clock, if there's any question about integrity or anything, what's the process from there on?
It's going to depend.
I don't know. I guess I have these questions because I just still don't believe in electronic voting machines to be safe. You said something about the USBs being transported. Who knows if they can be switched or this kind of thing. It leaves doubt in your mind.
I understand. Well, and let me address that in terms of there are envelopes, secure envelopes that have a seal and a chain of custody for the USB transport that the election official at the polling place seals and signs so that it's tamper evident. And I mean, believe me, I am a huge skeptic, and understand people's unease. But I can also say that we're putting bodies in place. We have a heck of a lot of volunteers here in Delaware, and nationally there are. I said earlier, they've had 225,000 people signed up to be poll workers or poll watchers for the exact purpose of being able to watch what happens at the end of the night when these machines are shut down and tabulated. In terms of whether there is an issue and what happens, it depends on so during election day, and the reason I'm pushing out the website, delaware.protectthevote.com, and giving out a phone number, and we're going to have this at every polling place. There's going to be a sign in front of every polling place with the phone number to call, is if there's something that we can do during the day, we're going to. So it depends on what's happening. So for instance, again, I keep going back to 2020, but and it happened in 22 also. The whole thing about wearing masks, there was no requirement that you wear a mask during COVID to vote. Yet there were people in polling places that were being turned away because they weren't wearing their masks. I was on the phone with the commissioner of elections, pushing, and we got it straightened out. So if there is something that's going on that is addressable during the election day, we're going to be dealing with it. If it's something that happens at the end from a tabulation standpoint, or something, and I can't quite tell you what that looks like, then we'll be dealing with it from a legal standpoint and challenging the certification of the election at the Board of Canvass in each of the counties on Thursday, 2 days after the election. But I go ahead.
In your opinion, what is the safest way to vote, early or on the day of voting, in your opinion?
It's a great question. I personally think early voting. And I'm going to tell you why. Because with the way that they are counting the early voting, they are actually taking those ballots and they are scanning those ballots and then tabulating them. On election day, the machine, the ballots are all there. They are not spoiled. They are there. Okay? But the machine is doing the counting. And I personally like the idea that each ballot is being scanned separately and then tabulated.
Okay. So I've been holding off till Tuesday to vote, so maybe I should be doing the early voting.
I would like you to, but you do not. You do not have to. I think that. So bear something in mind about the machine voting. Again, those ballots are there. So if there were ever an issue, in terms of the machine count is not, something doesn't gel, we have those ballots to actually physically look at and tabulate to make sure that the machine count matches. And they do that randomly in the post-election audit. But if there were a problem at a particular polling place or something happened, we could argue about the certification. So both of them are, you can vote in either one, and both of them are auditable. So you do what works for you. I got to go because of that music. You're listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
Here is the Marine Fork.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Hutton from Rehoboth Beach Running Company. We've been in this location for about 8 years, and we've been in business for about 16 years. We're pretty much busy every day, all year round now. Since we've been advertising with the Talk of Delmarva, everywhere we go, people seem to know about us. I like working with other small businesses. We work with a lot of small businesses, and advertising is no different. And we like for people to come in and actually see our store.
Yeah.
So when people from the Talk of Delmarva have seen our store, they understand it better. Some of their other customers shop at our store, and it's really a small town kind of life. And people shop local, advertise local, listen to the local radio. It all kind of comes full circle. So how has the marketing department helped us? Well, I love that she's always looking ahead at the calendar, because as a small business person, I'm very busy and I'm kind of thinking of last minute things. And so Laura's always ready for the sidewalk sale. She knows it's a big deal for us. And so you want to get the word out a little bit early. And the sidewalk sale this year was better than ever. And I think it's in great part to Laura's planning and the commercials, so people know that the whole town is having a sidewalk sale and that we have big sales at that time of year. I didn't really know what to expect in the beginning, because I didn't know whether she'd know our business. I don't know if she would know runners and but she listens very carefully, and she researches, and she really tries to gear our ads towards our business, and she does an excellent job. I think people really, more now than ever, want to shop local. I think people want to support local businesses and help the community. And so when people know that we are a small business that meets their needs, they'd rather shop here than go online or some other way. So I think people really want to help themselves and help the community. We have attracted our ideal customer at the Talk of Delmarva. We service people from, 12 years old or even younger to 95-year-olds. So yeah, I think our ads are doing a great job of bringing customers to us. The Talk of Delmarva advertising has helped with our marathon also. So I organized the Rehoboth Marathon and Half Marathon in December, and we sell out earlier and earlier every year. And I think that's due in part to advertising with the Talk of Delmarva. The people know that we have a running store and that we also have this big race at a great time of year, and people sign up earlier and earlier every year. I really do believe that the return on investment is huge. I think we definitely got return on our investment quickly. Every dollar spent was well worth it. I would highly recommend for other businesses to advertise on the Talk of Delmarva. It's been a great experience for us. It's been very worthwhile, and I would highly recommend it to other businesses.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great, and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
Interactive Lounge at thetalkofdelmarva.com.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray live in studio. We're in our last half hour. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi,
You're on the air.
Marie
What's your
from
name?
Hillsborough.
I talked to her. What's your
Hello?
name? Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question. Does it have to be about elections, or could it be something else?
Oh, absolutely. Something else. Go for it.
All right. Listen, I was trying to figure this out. The HOA where I live, they say that it's a state law that 70% of the residents have to vote for something.
Mm-hmm.
She said it's a state law, and not 51%, but 70% of the people. Is that true?
It depends on what it is that you're voting. And so the state law that they're talking about is called the Delaware Uniform Common Ownership Interest Act. DECOYA is the nickname for it. And within and where this comes into play is, it affects HOAs. It has a certain size HOAs, but there are certain things that require 70%. Typically, and I'm not an HOA attorney, but I have in my mind, if you were basically amending the restrictive covenants because they are recorded and everybody is put on notice, that may be a 70% thing, but Decoya actually spells it out. If you wanted to go to on the internet to a search engine, and if you just put Delaware Uniform or HOA law, you'll find it, and you should be able to find what the 70% threshold is required for. It's not on everything. But there are certain things that 70% threshold has to be met.
Okay. Well, we have a pool. We only get to use it 3.5 months a year. So I was wondering if we could put on the ballot that we would like to have it heated. And then I was told that you have to have 70%. So I don't know, 70% for that.
Yeah, I wouldn't take that at face value. Just because I think people are misinformed. It's not everything is at that 70% number. It's and so it depends on where the pool is mentioned currently. Is it in the restrictive covenants? Is it in the bylaws? And a change like that. I mean, I do know that things that affect the pocketbooks would tend to have a higher threshold than things that don't. But again, I'm not an HOA expert, so I would just refer you to do a little bit of walking on the internet with that.
And how would something like that be put on the ballot for the people to vote? How does that happen? I asked the woman that represents the HOA, and she didn't know.
There is no hard and fast way that happens because HOAs are not. I mean, so the bylaws for the homeowners association or the restrictive covenants will specify when the annual meeting is. There has to be a voting meeting once a year. Sometimes they will have more than one meeting, and they're not both voting meetings, but the actual documents will dictate what happens, and if there are no documents, then Decoya comes into play and it specifies it. But there's not a centralized rule for what ballots have to look like or how things happen, and so it's a very wide-ranging way. It can be paper ballots, it can be little pieces of paper, it can be all sorts of things, but there's no hard and fast rule on that.
So, in other words, who's ever responsible for having the residents vote on something, that would have to be put out on the, that information would be supplied to the residents to decide if they want to vote for it or what?
It depends. So the board is who oversees this. So the board members are elected. And, depending on what the documents say about voting meetings, like some of them require that there has to be a month of notice or 2 months of notice of changes or things like that. Again, it goes back to the documents. If you do not have a copy of the restrictive covenants for your community or the bylaws, they have to be provided to you. You can ask, you can ask your board for it. And a lot of them, depending on how large it is, have them online. If there's a property management company for the community, that's where I would go. Not the board. I'd go to the property management company. But it will give some of the guidance on this in terms of when those meetings are, and sometimes we'll give a roadmap for, like I said, notice and things like that.
All right. Okay, thanks for your help.
You're very welcome. Have a great day. Thank you. Take care. Okay, Bye. Let's go back to those phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Julianne. This is Eric calling from Seaford over here. What happens to the early voting machines once early voting is over?
It's a great question. They're used in the general election. So go ahead.
They get transported?
Yep.
And everything's being watched, right?
Yep. Because so what happens with that? Now, not all of them are necessary. I don't know that for sure, that every single one of them gets used. But part of the reason for that day in between is because they have to be moved. They may have to be moved. But they are zeroed out, and then and again, our checker challengers that I keep talking about, we have them at the end of the day. We also have them at the beginning of the day to make sure that there's a tag on the machine. There are certain things from a protocol standpoint, from opening a polling place, to make sure that the machines are zeroed out, and all of those things that we are trying to make sure that we have watchers that are going to be watching that.
Well, I am a challenger, and I will be there watching Tuesday morning. So I was just asking to make sure them machines should be started at 0. Am I right?
You are correct. There is absolutely.
Okay.
So anything that the machines, and I know that. So it's a great question, because that the machine was used, and there could be thousands of votes that were run across it on election day.
Yep. There are.
On election day, it's 0. That is
okay. Good.
Yep.
That's what I want to know as a challenger. So
well, and
you
Eric,
answer my question.
Thank you for being willing to be a challenger. I live in Seaford, so I early voted, so I won't see you. But to everybody who is willing to be a checker challenger, thanks for stepping up and doing it, because it gives a level of confidence to me as the party chair to say, look, we've put people in place, we've got people who are watching. So thank you so much for being willing to do that. Oh, I think he's gone. Okay, I know, and I just got the signal. Okay, caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name's Hazel. I'm calling from Lewis.
Hey, Hazel, how can I help you today?
Yes, I'm wondering, I heard during the week there was some fluke going on with the machines up in Newcastle. And had they fixed that fluke, or numbers weren't matching certain things?
I didn't hear that, and I'm the chair. So I'm a little,
I know that. I heard it on this station. No.
Okay. So let me see what I can find out. I mean, what I did hear about Newcastle was when we were talking about the scanning of the early ballots, and that there was something that came out on Tuesday about the error on the machines and the re-scanning of them. That part we have dealt with, but I have not heard anything about numbers not matching up, because nothing's been tabulated yet. So I'm wondering if we got two things going on there. But the issue that you may be referring to is there was something that came out that said that the scans of the cards from the machines from the early voting, there were errors where it was rejecting some, and they were having to be rescanned again and again. And and the point of the article was, that this should be working seamlessly. There shouldn't be rejected ballots, and we got to be doing better than this. The good thing that came out of it is that the Department of Elections has agreed to include absentee ballots and early voting ballots in their post-election audits. It should have been doing it all along. I mean, our law says all ballots. So to say that it was just the general election day made no sense. But so if there were any issues when that count is done, that would be caught. So no, I would say if that's what we're talking about, I think we're okay. I'm not aware of anything else because nothing's been tabulated yet.
Yes, that was what I was talking about. And I do have another question.
Go for it. You're fine.
Will there be a bury the hatchet on Thursday in Georgetown?
Yes, there will. So that is return day. And it is, in fact, somebody asked, I got an email here, will I be in the parade? I will not. I'm not a candidate. The parade is typically candidates, but I'm just a lowly party chair. But if you've never done return day, it's fun. It's it's a good tradition. I did it as a candidate in 2020, return day. Yep, I was in Sussex County because it's hilarious. They declare the winner of Sussex County. So I was the governor of Sussex in return day, but it was bittersweet. But return day it's a good tradition, and it's supposed to literally bury the hatchet and move on to the next, on to the newly elected people.
All right. Thank you very much, Julie. And I voted for you every time you ran.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I know I've got another caller. Hang on for me. I got to step away for one last step away. You are listening to 92.7 and 98.5, and that is the talk of Delmarva.
I'm Tom Holmes, 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth Beach. The restaurant's been here since 1987. I've had it since 2007. I get probably 2-3 customers a night that will come in and say, I heard you on the radio and it sounded great and we're so happy that you're advertising locally with local businesses. I used to do very limited advertising, just a little bit on newspapers and billboards and stuff like that, but now I'm pretty much exclusively just with the radio station. I advertise on Rehoboth Foodie Bob's show, and I also advertise different segments and different times during the course of the week. I've been pretty much with the same schedule for maybe about 10 years. I'm just happy I am advertising with them. They've been very loyal to us, and the feedback I get from my customers about the radio station is tremendous.
I'm Keith Pettit, an assistant manager here at Southern States Milford Cooperative in Milford, Delaware. My experience with WGMD radio station, Talk of Delmarva, has been outstanding. We do our once monthly radio show here in our showroom, and we instantly see results of people coming in that day and the following day and the weeks after saying, I heard about this on WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva. And not just at a close local level within a few miles, but it brings customers in from a fair distance to come and check out the products that we've talked about through the radio station advertising. But in my estimation, WGMD is the best talk radio station on Delmarva. People are in tune to hanging on every word that that station says, and that transfers to the advertisers. The people that listen to WGMD listen to our advertisements word for word, and they know what they're looking for when they come in here as a result. I just think they're phenomenal. They do a great job.
My name is Karen. My husband and I own Captain's Pizza. We have been here for over 6 years, going on 7. We only advertise with WGMD, and we love it. They really help us with anything that we need. They always have good suggestions. They help me with the commercials. Advertising has helped our business tremendously. We do get a lot of people that come in and want to know who is talking on the radio, and I'm always here, so I'm always happy to say that it's me. We participate with Delmarva Dollars. A lot of customers bring them in. We have customers that ask when they're going to have them again if they don't hear it on the radio. We tried advertising in the newspaper and things like that, but we see more of a showing with the Delmarva Dollars. And the customers, they ask me, where else do we advertise? And I tell them, we only advertise with WGMD. We've been very successful with them. We get exactly what we ask for, and it's well worth the money that we invest in it.
Since 1980, WGMD Radio has been your local hometown station with everything from music to news to sports. We know a thing or two about community and longevity. The Talk of Delmarva is proud to be partnered with the White Marlin Open and congratulates them on 50 years.
Welcome back to Tipping the Scales of Justice. Julianne Murray. We got about 10 minutes to go. I'm going to go to the phone lines. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Steve from Milton.
Hey, Steve. How can I help you today?
All right. So, I've been listening. We listen to y'all, your show, and, well, DMG in general, practically every day. And I keep hearing it over and over again about the voting and, go there and, watch the polls, watch for something crooked and watch for this and watch for that. And I can appreciate what you're trying to do. But I also want to let folks know, the fine folks that work the polls, many of them, if not at least half, are Republican. So when you go in there, it's not as though you have a whole room full of people who are adversarial to your party, but they're all there to work together to just get the people in and out and get them voted, get them in quickly, so that they don't think that voting is such a pain because it's going to take so long. I'm an inspector at one of the locations, and I had more trouble with people who are Republicans that came in, and whether they were just giving me attitude or wearing things that they shouldn't wear. And then when they were told that they couldn't wear them, had a fit or whatever, that sort of stuff is not allowed. And I think every inspector that's out there is going to challenge you coming to the polling place wearing something inappropriate.
Well, let me pause you there for a second. When you say inappropriate, let's make sure everybody knows. If they're wearing something for a particular candidate, it's considered inappropriate.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
you can't come in there with any candidate's name, or image. I would say is the same thing. I had a couple people coming in with sort of an obscene shirt with one of the candidates on it, and I will prevent you from wearing those clothes in the building. And if I have to call law enforcement to enforce that law, I don't have a problem doing it. But most folks, once you tell them, you can't, they've put their hats in their pockets or switch their shirts inside out. But you have to remember, we're there doing a job, getting people in, getting them voted. We're all watching what's going on, making sure nothing shady happens. So, we don't need to be hassled, and, you can't hassle us. That's also against the law. So, maybe you could just let folks know, kind of fill them in on those sort of things as well, because we don't want problems. The last thing I want to do is have a problem there where somebody's going to go to a radio station or TV or this, that, and the other thing, and now we've got an incident and everybody's looking down on Sussex County and, look at these people here and yada, yada. All we want to do at the polling place is get you in, get you out, get you voted as quickly as possible so you don't have to wait any longer than necessary.
All right. So, Steve, I appreciate the call. And, it is worth mentioning to people that, or to anybody who's listening to this, that just because, poll workers and inspectors, there is an aim for balance in terms of party having equal representation within a polling place. And so the person that you are talking to could be a Democrat or a Republican, and it's supposed to be, I'm going to use the word, a neutral zone. So check the attitude and understand that the person you're talking to could be a Republican or a Democrat, and you don't know. And I can tell you, having gone to lots of polling places and talking to everybody that's working there, in general, super neutral, and I couldn't tell whether they were a Democrat or a Republican, and I appreciated that. Go ahead.
Yeah, as an inspector, we all try to make sure that everybody stays neutral. We're not supposed to even talk amongst ourselves about anything political for fear that somebody may overhear it. So,
correct.
That's a moot point. Every now and then somebody slips. I'm not saying everybody on the planet's perfect, but, as a rule, we're not supposed to talk about that stuff. We're not allowed to have any kind of, actually, we had somebody inadvertently, they had a newspaper with them, and there was one of the candidates on the first page of the paper, and we're like, you got to get it out of here. It's got to be in the lunchroom. You can't have it out where somebody can see it. Right. So, we try to keep an eye on everything like that. People leaving maybe voting materials somewhere, we have to make sure that they're out. So, we're all busy trying to do the best job that we can, and I hope everybody that comes out to finish voting the next couple days keeps that in mind.
Okay. No, I appreciate the call, Steve, and I will.
Thanks so much.
I think that it's a very valid point that there are a lot of people who are trying to do the right thing. And I do think that a lot of people do not know, and that's why I asked you about when you said inappropriate. It's not lewd, people. It's you can't wear campaign material into a polling place. And a totally different conversation we'll have some other time about the constitutionality and free speech and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you want to vote, you can't wear a candidate's shirt into a polling place. There's actually a funny, it's made its way to the New York Post of a woman who in New Jersey who took her shirt off. It was a MAGA shirt and took it off and voted in her bra. I'm not suggesting that should be happening in Delaware. Turn your shirt inside out if it's an issue, but a lot of people don't know that. So I appreciate the call, and and do want people to understand that we're working to that everybody who's working there is trying to be neutral. And so give some grace. Don't automatically assume that you're talking to somebody who's an enemy. There is a certain amount of grace that should just happen, and don't just assume it's going to be a problem. Speaking of election night, and then I'll try and get to a couple digital questions, but I want to make sure and get this in. Here at the Talk of Delmarva, starting at 8 p.m., will be Jake Smith and John Brady will be here. They will be doing election night coverage. They'll be doing it on the radio. They will also be doing it if you go to WGMD.com, where you can do the video interactive like we do with IndustryNewsOnline.com. You'll be able to watch if you want to. Mike is going to be at a watch party in Ocean City. MJ is going to be at the watch party with Ruth Briggs King. That is at the Sussex County Association of Realtors in Georgetown, right at Route 9 and Park. The Sussex County Republican Party is doing a watch party at Revelations Brewery in Georgetown. I believe it starts 7-ish, might be 7:30, but if you go to sussex.gop, you'll be able to see that. And bear in mind on these watch parties, I mean, there's not a lot to watch until later. It's really just about, okay, we made it. You can have candidates, you can have volunteers there, everybody just kind of taking a load off. We made it here, and and hoping that we got across that finish line. Delaware GOP, we're doing the statewide one up in Newcastle County at the Hilton Christiana. We do want people to pre-register because we got a bunch of people coming to it. We have press coming to it. A lot of the Newcastle candidates, and I know in Kent County, at the Grottos in Dover, right on Route 13, is where they're doing their watch party. But it's fun to go to these and just kind of have everybody together. We're actually making an effort to tie them all in on Zoom so that we can. I know that the 38th is having a watch party. Michelle, if you're listening, she will text me and tell me where it is because I can't remember off the top of my head. But the 38th Republican District Club, if you search that, you'll be able to find that location. But it's fun to be around fellow Republicans, and we may have a good night on Tuesday night. Let me look real quick. I know that Harry sent some stuff in about wanting to revisit the safeguards against multiple votes by the same voter during early voting. In order to catch multiple votes, a unique key that does not permit duplicates must be generated. There is. It's called a voter ID. It's how we do all of our tracking when we are culling through the reports to find out who has voted and who has not. And his question is, it's messy with multiple different documents to be questioned as to the source of the unique ID. It's not, so I need to make sure that you understand that the voter ID is a unique identifier. It's not tied to identification. It's something that is assigned to a unique voter. So you cannot go to multiple early voting sites and cast multiple votes. It's, there is a unique voter ID tied to you specifically as a voter. And I will tell you that even on, and the last part of it, has anybody on our side actually tried it? Yeah. And they didn't get anywhere with it. So, you have to go, you have to show your ID, or they ask for your ID. They're actually asking for your birthday too. So they're being careful. Thanks, everybody. Get out and vote 7 to 7 today and tomorrow, all day on Tuesday. Your vote is your voice. This is 92.7, 98.5, and that is the Talk of Delmarva.
Peninsula's heritage hometown station for over 40 years. WGMD, Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City, News, Talk, and Sports.